GL renewals are up across the board right now. Most contractors I'm talking to were expecting flat, maybe even decreased premiums on workers' comp, and they're getting hit with increases on general liability instead. Frustrating. That's a frustrating conversation to have, and today I want to talk about something that can make it even worse. There are two words that show up in almost every construction contract. Most contractors sign both without knowing the difference, and your insurance policy does not treat them the same way. Stick with me, this one is worth understanding before your next contract. The two words are indemnify and defend. They look similar, they're usually in the same clause, but they create two completely different obligations, and your general liability policy responds to each one differently. Let's start with indemnify. When you agree to indemnify someone, you're agreeing to be financially responsible for losses that they suffer because of your work. Your general liability policy is built to handle this within your limits. Specifically, your policy covers liability that you've assumed in what's called an insured contract. Most standard construction agreements qualify, so indemnification is manageable. Your policy is designed for that. Now, here's where it gets tricky, it gets complicated. Defend is a different word entirely. When a contract includes a duty to defend, you're agreeing to pay the other party's legal costs immediately, the moment a claim is filed. Not after fault's determined, not after a judgment, but the moment a claim is filed. That's a significant difference. Indemnification responds to losses. A duty to defend triggers legal costs before anyone knows who's responsible for anything. And here's what most contractors don't realize. Your general liability policy is not automatically designed to cover a contractual duty to defend. Those legal costs may fall outside the insured contract definition entirely, which means they may fall on you directly. Now, add broad indemnification language on top of that. Most construction contracts don't say you're responsible for losses caused by your negligence. They say something closer to, you shall indemnify and hold harmless to the fullest extent permitted by law. That phrase, to the fullest extent permitted by law, is doing a lot of legwork there. It can shift liability to you for things that go well beyond the scope of what you actually did. In some states, it can even shift a portion of the other party's own negligence onto you. Your general liability policy has limits on what it covers within insured contracts. Broad indemnification language can push you past those limits into territory your policy wasn't designed for. So here's what the worst combination looks like. A contractor signs a subcontract with a broad indemnification clause and a duty to defend. A claim gets filed, doesn't matter yet who's at fault. The contractor is immediately on hook for the other party's attorney fees. And if the indemnification language is broad enough, the financial exposure could go beyond what the general liability policy covers. Two words, one clause, two compounding problems. Here's what to do before you sign your next contract. Read the indemnification section. You're looking for two specific things. First, does the language limit your responsibility to your own negligence, or does it use broad language to the fullest extent permitted by law? Narrow is better. Broad can be a problem. Second, does the clause include a duty to defend? If it does, that obligation triggers immediately at the filing of a claim. Before fault, before judgment, your policy may not be built to cover that. And guess who's on the hook? If you see both in the same clause, broad indemnification and a duty to defend, that's the combination worth flagging before you sign, not after. Send that clause to your agent and ask specifically whether your current policy covers the contractual defense obligation you've been asked to assume. That is a 5-minute conversation that can save a contractor real money. If you want to have that conversation about your current contracts, or if you've got a clause you're not sure about, that's exactly what we do here at Watley Insurance Group. Reach out. Our phone number is 318-423-7445, or go to callwatley.com. We're licensed in 8 states. Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. Next week, we're getting into waivers of subrogation, what they are, what you're giving up when you sign one, and why most contractors don't realize it until a claim happens. That one drops next Tuesday. See you then.